Welcome to Heresy from the Haven, coming to you from the Gamers Haven in beautiful Spokane, Washington. Still filming in the basement, so if you hear some creaking upstairs, well, that's just part of it. Still planning on building our studio, but we have a few other projects in our way.
It's the ghost of Heresy.
We are your hosts. I'm Bob.
I'm Jay.
I'm Steven.
And today we're going to be talking about finding Horus Heresy events, either locally or having to travel to them, which I think the first thing you're going to find if you're going to start going out to Horus Heresy events is you're going to find 40K events in almost every city. You're going to find AOS events, a little less than 40K. Horus Heresy events, not a lot of them. If you can get one going in your town, we'll even come to you.
We will.
Yeah, they're amazing, and we will get to. Well,
not only how to find them, but why. Why do you want to go to a Horus Heresy narrative event?
Well, Jay, why do you want to go to a Horus Heresy?
Can I just say one thing really quick before we start in? Right before we hit play, you're like, hey, Steven, you do the main topic, and you both have decided to talk about it.
Yeah, well, it's because you're hidden. You're Alpha Legion.
So, I just want to remind you
Steven,
I'm here.
Why do you want to go?
I want to participate.
Why do you want to go to the Horus Heresy events?
Oh, see, this backfired. Why do I want to go? I like the camaraderie that comes from playing with toy soldiers on a weekend and the escape that it provides. I have a fairly stressful life outside of this with jobs and different things, and I travel a lot. So it's nice to just be home, be local, and be with my friends that I enjoy hanging and spending time with. So if I go to it, that's for local events, obviously. But those are going to be the majority of the events you go to, is your local game store events,
if you can find
things
them.
like that, if you can find them. So that, for me, that's probably my main reason. I love hanging out with you guys. I love destroying loyalist scum or supporting it.
We don't even
for the Emperor. And I love Bob coming around telling me, making sure that, like, hey, just remember the rule is this. I'm like, thank you, Bob. I wear up the rule.
Don't do that. Especially if I'm playing you, I don't do that.
That's fair. That's very fair. But you don't play in your own events, and that comes as being a TO, and we'll get to that. Why do you go to events?
Yeah, so when we say events now, I mean, most of these tabletop games you're playing with your buddies and friends. Like, Steven, we play all the time. We'll get together, we'll play one game.
Play
Bob,
basement,
we're playing
shop.
Tomorrow. It might be 3 to 4 hours. Well, I mean, you talk so much, probably 6 to 7 hours.
Accurate.
But an event, you're going to be looking at most likely either a full day or 2 full days. Multiple rounds, multiple opponents. So for me, it's just you get a lot more access to the game itself. I've played Alpha Legion so many times, World Leader so many times. You go to an event, you know what you're going to see.
Right.
In terms of rules, also in terms of modeling. You're exposed to just the wonderful hobby that this is. An event it's really just a celebration. Everyone's getting together at a Horus Heresy narrative event. You're just having fun. There's not a lot of stress, not a lot of pressure. You're there to roll dice, pick up models. For me, that's what it's all about. The people in the event itself, but also for me, I just love playing the game. I want to play against other people, other strategies, learn something, and man, I can't get enough of them.
You also love teaching the game. Like, you love helping your opponents.
Yeah.
And that is something that's very admirable. Like, you don't care if you win or lose. You're going to help them beat you if that's what needs to be done.
Yeah, and it's the tough part with Horus Heresy is it is such a great game, but because it's less competitive and more narrative, which we're going to talk about in a second here, it has less players.
It does.
And this is not a bad thing or a good thing. It just is what it is. 40K and AOS have become a lot more competitive. The rules sets have designed to be more competitive. There's large circuits like the ITC that are really promoting that competitive side. So you don't run into a lot of narrative events. You have a lot of people who are maybe chasing meta. And again, I'm not saying it's a negative thing. It just kind of is what it is. So because of that, it's got a lot smaller player base. So when you're talking about TOs running events, unless they really have a dog in that hunt, they're really passionate about it, you're not going to find as many Horus Heresy events. Personally, I love, well, as a TO, so I've owned the shop for 24 years in 10 days. And I either 40K AOS, because I've played them all, and Horus Heresy, I don't get local events at all. Because I refuse, as Steven mentioned, to play in my own events. So I run events, and I don't have other shops in the area. I do actually. There's one great shop local that over in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, that runs events, but they always end up being not Horus Heresy 40K. That on weekends I can't go. So I am the only way I really play in events is by traveling. And I've been doing this for 15 plus years, or I'm traveling to large events, and I love it. Fortunately, my wife also loves going as well. So if we're going to Vegas, we're going to Victoria, we're going to any of these tournaments, Cruise Hammer, we do. It's an experience for us to go out. We have dinner. We're hanging out with our friends. You're hanging out with people who are like-minded. Like the amount of friends I have made going to events, friends that have become lifelong friends, 10, 15 years that I still call brother, that I've met them. We can't wait to meet up in Vegas. We can't wait to meet up in wherever we're going. So it's a vacation mixed in, and you get to do your favorite nerd stuff with people who are all like-minded. Right. And just really turning it into, a lot of people I think are nervous of either going to their first event or especially traveling to their first event. It can be pretty intimidating. And I tell people a lot that will play in some of my events for the first time they've ever played in any kind of event. I'm like, just set your expectations what you want. Like, do you want to go and win best appearance? Sure. Then absolutely bust your butt, paint nonstop, come up with some cool stuff. Do you want to go win best sportsmanship? We'll give candy or licorice to all your opponents, right? or it works. I want to win. Okay, well, if you want to win the event, you want to win the most games, then you better be practicing all the time. Or you just want to go, and this is the best, you just want to go and meet like-minded people, roll some dice, move some toy soldiers around on a Saturday afternoon, and just have a good time and meet other people. It's the best. If you haven't gone to events, it's the best. I can't even tell you how many times I've had people come into events, even recently, walking in. You played 40K for the first time recently.
Last week.
And you haven't played it since 5th edition, which is, I can't even tell you how many years. And you literally walk up to your first opponent and go, first event, sorry if I'm slow, whatever, I'm just going to have a good time. And you are never going to get a negative response. It's just such a, we can't recommend it enough. For me, the experience, the camaraderie, the whole, all in all, that's why I do it. I do it because I love to travel. I love to, maybe there's a little ego involved. I love to show off my newest army, my concepts, what I'm doing. But then you get to see everybody else's armies and you get inspiration from them, and you talk about lore and you talk about, hey, why'd you build that army that way? And it's just, they're great. Traveling to events is my favorite thing. It really is. It's
something I fell back in love with even just now, because we went to Las Vegas Open back in January, and that's the first event I'd traveled to. So my background was, my first gaming experience was as a competitive Magic the Gathering player.
Right.
So I traveled to Grand Prix, Pro Tours, state championships, all the time with my friends. Married, had kids, didn't travel near as much. Came back into Heresy, the excuse to go down to Vegas. I mean, that was one of the best we could have had in a long time. So
yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a blast. This experience then brought me that. So yeah, get out there, try it.
So let's start with where can you find events?
Well, again, with Heresy, it's going to be a lot harder. If you have a local event, man, support them. Support them. Go to the event. Don't be afraid to go out and set your expectations low, or if you're going to set them high, work towards those expectations. If you don't hit them, don't be disappointed. It's Toy Soldiers on a Saturday. It's just going out and finding like-minded people, which is a little harder with Horus Heresy because it really hasn't hit that popularity level of some of the other tabletop games. But find your local shops, even maybe volunteer to help run events, maybe teaching more people to play, try to start building a community, or find them on, you can find events on social media. There's a lot of great Horus Heresy pages on Facebook, and you find out about events that are going on.
So once you find an event, and this is your first time, what's a typical, what's the event mean to you? Like, what happens at an event?
Let's start with the basics. Number one. You arrive at the shop. You bring your army.
Early.
Don't
be the guy walking in.
Late. Don't
2 minutes before the dice roll.
So you want to bring your army, your list, your dice, the rules, any supplements you have that you need to play your army. Essentially, everything you need to play the game, bring with you.
Right.
Yeah. Number two.
Oh, what is it? What does our notes say? Oh, there it is.
It's the TO. You're the TO. You're supposed to take the number 2 toe.
The TO should step up at the beginning of the event and tell you everything you need to know. This is how it's going to go down. These are where the times are going to be. And usually you're going to find these events, they're posted. It's going to be a 3-hour round. This is where your lunch break is. Me personally, I love to do like player votes on armies for people to pick their favorite army. So I tell all my as a TO, I tell all my participants, make sure you leave your armies out at lunch with your name tag in front of it. At the end of the event, you're going to be given a slip of paper, put your name at the top, write your favorite armies on that, and we vote that way. But the TO should be there to help you with anything. Don't be afraid to ask questions if you don't know what's going on. At LVO this last time, I couldn't hear the TO. Alex was fantastic, and I couldn't hear him because I'm old. And I was up through my second game, and someone did something that was like, "Here, I'm going to use this token for this thing," and I'm like, "What token?
What does that mean?"
And I immediately just went, "I'm like, hey, do you mind if I go get one of those?" And I went up, and my opponent explained it to me, and the TO explained it to me. And don't be afraid to ask questions if you're not sure what's going on. But you'll usually find with an event some kind of players packet, something that'll kind of walk through what they expect from you, what to expect while you're there. But yeah, like I said, don't be afraid to ask questions.
Don't be afraid to ask your opponents questions. But also the TO's there to back you up. I mean,
Sorry.
Pause the video. Okay, we're good.
Here we go.
And we're back.
Emergency rental.
That's the feed the animals alarm right there.
Yeah. You know, for the most part, the people there, we're all here to celebrate the same game. Every once in a while, you might get bad apples, but the TOs are there also helping with that. So just don't be afraid to.
10 people suck it. No matter what, so.
Yeah, raise your hand. TOs got your back.
Yeah.
So once everything's kind of settled, what's kind of cool about Heresy is we're talking about narrative tables. So you do have your book missions, your kind of the generic stuff, but a lot of these Heresy events you go to, I think LVO was book missions, correct?
Mm-hmm. It was.
But some of these, especially Bob, yours, these events you go to, every table is different. Mm-hmm. Another reason I love going is every table is different, the terrain is different, the mission is different. So the TO is going to assign you the table, going to assign you the opponent. You show up, you walk up, put your armor down, start playing. You play for a certain amount of time. End of the round, you both report results. On and on and on.
Right. Yep, it's pretty straightforward. And like Jade touched on just now, some events, it may be you're playing mission 3 out of the book and everybody's playing the same mission on every table. Or like some of my events, you walk up to the table, and we're going to talk about this in a second more, but the scenario is specific on the table, so now everybody is playing a different scenario. You're playing the scenario that was designed for the table. But it all should be pretty straightforward, and just, we can't reiterate it enough. Don't be afraid to ask questions, if you have any.
So let's give some of our experiences for.
Let's start with the Boys of the Golden Throne. I think that was you, right? You went
that was me. Yep, up in British Columbia. The Boys of the Golden Throne is a which is hilarious in as itself, just the name. It was an event up in Victoria, British Columbia. It was a memorial event for a lost friend. I didn't know Alex real well, but Alex Pappas had passed away, and this was to celebrate him because he was all about sportsmanship. This guy was a great guy. He'd come up to 1 or 2 of my events. We get there. It was in a German, like, Hofbrauhaus style thing. They had a bar open. The missions were modified book missions. Some of the tables were amazing, but all the tables were kind of different. And at that event, they didn't track wins or losses at all. It was random pairing. They had some fun narrative things that they introduced during some of the games that were happening that maybe kind of changed your play style. It was pretty unpredictable. But yeah, it was just, everybody was just really just celebrating the event and playing games. And I think the only prizes they gave out a bunch of drawing stuff. And then they gave out something for sportsmanship and favorite army. And it was really, they put an exclamation point about the different vibe of people who play Horus Heresy versus some of the other competitive events, systems like 40K or AOS. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just, this is really just more about celebrating the hobby, you know. And this event for me really just pushed that point of, holy cow, like, it doesn't matter. Let's just, you and I have fun. Let's just roll dice and have this thing happen. It doesn't matter who wins or loses. It takes all the pressure off as far as winning and losing, because it just doesn't matter. It has no part of the event, and I knew that going into it. So you may bring more of the fun army concepts that we've talked about, things that are not necessarily designed to win the game, but it flows more in the game, and that's really what this event is
and
about.
Unusually for you, it's from the perspective as a player,
right? Instead of a TO, yep.
Instead of a TO,
yep, for sure. LVO, you guys were both there. You guys can talk about it. Neither one of you played because you were sad little guys.
Well,
there were circumstances.
I'm just messing with you. I'm just messing with you.
Now, don't forget, we actually did a recap of this previous episode,
Yep.
so please check that out. But LVO, it was awesome. That one was book missions, but also, I mean, it was like you said, even when it came to pairings, just point at who you want to play at. It was pretty.
It was just a lineup, and the TO would just walk by and you and you, you and you, you and you. It wasn't based on well, you won one and you won one, so you play. You lost one, you play. It wasn't like that at all.
And that one was really cool. We mentioned it before, but that was actually a continuation storyline of a previous year's event, which is just really cool to think about. Yeah. So next year, definitely.
Next year, for sure.
No excuses.
I have one excuse. I won't be able to go. We'll figure it out.
Oh. Well,
we'll do an episode on that.
Yeah.
Battle for Havenicus Prime. That was one that I run. Why don't you talk
You're the
about it?
TO. I played in it. I had a different perspective, I think, than a normal player would because I spent weeks with you helping write a lot of the narrative missions and things. So I was curious how things were working and things like that. But some really cool things happened during the tournaments. So the Battle for Havenicus Prime. So we're talking about narrative events. This was a unique event because we had a big screen up on the stage, and you had sectors, and each sector was assigned to one of the tables that was out, and each table had an individual mission and an individual benefit. And it was traitors versus loyalists.
Only. Yep.
Only.
We had to have equal, which is a nightmare as a TO. Had an equal amount of
rough.
loyalists and equal amount of traitors.
And then you had breakdown of that further was you had mission points, and then in a certain range band you had a victory, in a certain range band you had a loss, and in a certain range band you had a tie. And then the sectors up on the stage would change at the end of each game, which would then influence the bonus you could get from the sectors that were next to you.
Red and blue, right?
Well, I think
It was red and green.
Red and green.
The rule literally was loyalists. They all turned blue for some reason.
Well, that's funny because they were green.
Yeah.
That was the wins and losses really only counted for. So, for example, there's one that's a Prometheum refinery. If it went green, which means loyalists handled it, then on the territory, the tables that were territories adjacent to that one would have bonus to like their flamethrower weapons. Because only the loyalists would.
Right.
Loyalists next, because the loyalists
yeah.
held it. But in the next round, if it flipped to red, then the traitors would have it.
Right. So as part of that narrative experience, it was really cool to just like walk up to a table and be like, all right, let's see what happens.
We got to take this back.
We got to take this back.
Have to hold it.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, even the map changing in real time. Whenever somebody ended, you would flip the color. If somebody, you're like, oh no, I'm losing ground behind me.
I was watching all the traitors as it was starting to flip green, and everybody's like rallying.
One of the key things that I love about Horus Heresy versus the other, like Age of Sigmar, 40K and things, is the opportunity to have everybody's playing on a different table. Everybody has a different scenario, so different things can happen. Really cool things that can happen. You play Salamanders.
I did in this one, yeah.
You have Melta. You have all these really cool flame weapons.
Are you going to bring up Prometheum?
Yeah, and there's a table that we call the Prometheum refinery. Yep. And basically there's Prometheum gas in the air that causes...
If you
fire a
flamer
to potentially mishap and ignite and do damage to you. And he lost more models to the table than he lost to his opponent.
So I say Bob killed half my army that game. That's the TO.
It's one of my favorite things about making these scenarios is most of my scenarios they're almost like a third army. They're gonna bite you in the butt. Like whether you're on the hab or not the hab table, I can't remember the name of it, the snow table, where also the blizzard can kick up and you can't see anymore, and vehicles spin out and slam into walls, and vehicles take damage. Like I walk around as a TO and I'm like, how many is my sniper killed in Praise Be the Emperor on this table? How many stuff died to the Prometheum table over here? And it makes people really kind of play out of the box.
For sure. And there's another aspect to that too. For me personally, one of my favorite things to do when I'm playing, because the lore of Alpha Legion is that everyone's Alpharius. Right? And this started at a home game playing with Jay. It started this trend that I have where if somebody in the game does something so ridiculous, they get named like an actual name. I name them. So during Havenicus Prime, I was playing against my opponent, and you had to turn pipes as part of the objective. But in turning the pipe, you had to roll a d6. and one of the results was that things blew up. Like, it did damage.
Noxious gas.
Actually, like, blew up, right? So my opponent had a rhino coming alongside.
Touching the terrain.
And I had 2 breachers left. And I turned the pipe, and one of my breachers died, one made the save, and it was everything touching the terrain, which was strong enough to glance the rhino and blow it up.
Right.
So essentially, my one guy is just standing there going, "Oh no!" Turns the thing and like, "What was that noise?" Because it blew up a rhino around the corner that he couldn't see. And he got named Luigi because
And
Forever working on the pipes.
space plumbers, forever working on the pipes. So just
that's the kind of
really,
stuff you
and then it's a story that we can share like this. That you go and you tell about, like, "Oh, I played this one game where this happened."
Well, they're always the best stories.
And it's the best. It's one of my guys is painted blue. His name's Francois. That's an entirely different topic.
Right.
But that's just the cool part of the narrative events that when you go to and you're part of this community, and then the stories you can tell, like, "Oh, I had this game, I had this game, I had this game, this happened."
Yep.
In this format specifically, because tables are different, scenarios are different, it creates this like ongoing like tales and stuff.
I want to play in that event.
Yeah.
I don't get to play in that event. I got to run the event.
Well, maybe you should get another TO.
No, I can't play in my events. It feels weird. The next one is the Conqueror's Crown, and that's the one that I'm running again. So I run 2 a year, Battle for Havenix Prime, which is specifically loyalist against traitor only with this changing territory in this map. And then the second one being the Conqueror's Crown, which in the fluff, the background on this tournament is the Conqueror was the World Eater's ship, because I love World Eaters, that all the different legions would send their champions to duel each other. So this is an excuse for me calling it the Conqueror's Crown, where it doesn't matter if it's loyalist fighting loyalist or traitor fighting traitor, because it's kind of in the spirit of competing with each other. On this one specifically, same thing. I have all my tables are custom tables with scenarios attached to the table that are specific to the table. So again, the snow table has its own scenario where the snow is biting you. It could be the Maiden World, which is an Eldar Maiden World that has... Yeah,
I prefer sorry to interrupt you, but the disassembled Warlord Titan.
Oh yeah,
table.
yeah. My Warlord Titan comes apart in pins. And it's a Titan Manufactorum, and you can take over sections of control panels, and the guns that are dismantled on these pieces of terrain, you can actually take over and fire these guns at each other. So the scenarios, like I said, you might be playing Snow Table over there, and I'm playing Titan Manufactorum, and you're doing Prometheum Refinery over there. But in the Conqueror's Crown one, what I like is I try to reward achievements. So we went through and we tried to come up with achievements for every army, and achievement points were worth as much as battle points. So in this event, I still give away like a best general, but it's very small. I give an overall. An overall is a combination of best general, best force, best appearance, and achievements. And most of the achievements are actually bad for you to try to achieve, but you have these 8 achievements you have to try to fill out throughout the game. 5 of them are generic on each table, like maybe it's challenge the enemy warlord or accept a challenge with your warlord, or get a heavy weapon squad into your opponent's deployment zone, which means you're not shooting those guns, you're running across the table with them, which isn't very good for your generalship. The specific ones, I loved this. I had a lot of fun. I had both you guys helping out with this.
Yep.
So for example, like one of my favorites I use is the Emperor's Children. An Emperor's Children character, if you're playing the Emperor's Children and you have to try to get this individual achievement in a game, you have to declare a challenge with your opponent, and when you fight the challenge, you don't use your weapon. You have to use like your basic combat knife. So you're putting away your power fist or your power sword, and you're probably going to lose that achievement. But what it represents is the Emperor's Children being so arrogant, like, I don't even need my sword to fight you. I'm going to put this away and just punch you in the face and win. So every one of the personal achievements, depending on what army you have, are based on what that army excels at.
What was really cool about it, too, is that since everything was weighted the same, if you win against an opponent that brought a really hard list, like a really good list,
like I'm not
you're like, this game. There's no way I'm going to win that game, and instead you pivot and start doing the achievements, right? You could still... And it could still come out in your
Some of the other examples, like the White Scars, wind in your hair, have your entire army move at flank speed, charge, or run in the same turn. So the whole army just flies wind in their hair, which may not be beneficial to you, but you get the achievement for it.
Yeah.
So
that's just another example. So I guess the point is there's going to be a lot of different narrative events out there. Going to these events is a lot of fun. It's a great time. Go in, have a great time, meet like people, make lifetime friends. You're not going to run into what I like to call TFG at these kind of events very often. That's that effing guy, the person who might push the rules or whatnot. These events are going to be more likely. You're going to find a guy who's going to be like, hey, don't you have that one ability that actually benefits you? Don't forget to do that. That's what you're going to get at these kind of events. And it may take a little travel. It may take a little effort on your part, but treat it like a vacation.
That's part of the fun.
Yeah, it
for
really
sure.
is.
Yeah.
And it's worth being said that we live in Spokane, Washington.
Spokane, Washington.
Beautiful.
Lovely Spokane, Washington.
And we have a group for both of these tournaments. We have groups that come from Oregon. We have groups at Portland. We have groups that
Seattle
come from
area.
Seattle area.
British
we have groups that come out
Columbia,
of British
Boise.
Columbia. So it's
Montana.
worth it.
Montana, yeah.
But yeah, so I think that's...
Put yourself out there and try it.
Yeah, for sure. And if you find the Gamers Haven on social media, you'll see that we're advertising all these events as well. I guess it is a shameless plug that I'm trying to promote my own events. But the Conqueror's Crown, I think there's still some seats available for it in May 18th. That's my birthday, I should know, May 18th and 19th. That will be the Conqueror's Crown. And then we do the Battle for Havenicus Prime in the fall. LVO's in January. I'm not sure if the Boys of Golden
always
Throne.
something.
Yeah, there's events going on.
For sure.
So, yeah.
All right. You want to do the outro this time?
I would love to. Honestly, though.
Hey, wait a minute.
It's a running joke. If you want to join us, again, you like what we're doing, we love doing it. Whether you watch or not, we're going to put stuff out, I think.
Yeah.
I can't wait to talk strategy for armies.
Yeah.
We're going to try to do some... One of our goals is kind of have episodes planned out more in the future. We can put more stuff out, kind of roadmap for all you out there. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe. You go out the Talk of the Ticks, Instagrams,
The YouTubes.
Book of Faces.
all that stuff. But thanks. We appreciate it. So
Yeah, thanks, guys.
have fun.
We'll see you
Thank
next
you.
time.